Hey, GM, everybody. It's your pal Drac here. I've been gone a little while. The team has all been jet setting. I did not make it to Singapore, unfortunately. I wish I did, but I was gone last week. Corval's been doing solo shifts. Now here I am while he's in Singapore. But we're gonna have the crew back together real soon. So excited for that. But I thought that there was some pretty important stuff to talk about, and it would be crazy to not do some kind of stream today. Yo says yo. Yo. Yo also says when $1. I don't know, buddy. I need you to enter the market. I need you to get a loan on your house. I need you to mortgage your grandma's house. I need you to put it all in this. Let's pump this thing to $1. But I don't know. I think we had pretty bullish news at Summit. I mean, it's 10 a.m. here on the East Coast. Summit has already ended in Singapore since they're 12 hours ahead. But I think that we're seeing the markets in general have a little bit of a bounce back. But of course, Sonic having a major bounce back, I'm sure it has something to do with what was surely the largest announcement from the show. They came right out the gate, first thing, and announced that Michael Kong was going to step back from the role of CEO. He's stepping back as a director, and our new CEO, Mitchell Demeter, is now in charge. He's now the CEO of the ship, and I think it's so far been pretty well received. He's obviously, many of you probably know him from Sonic Strategy as well. He has already has like a big vested interest in Sonic and an S. Yankee says Big Mitch. Yeah, he's a big guy, actually. He's really tall. So a lot of changes going on right now. And I think it was the right decision. I think it's time for a reset. Obviously, you cannot discount what Michael Kong has done. He's been the CEO since Phantom, done a ton for the network and all of us. But I think that obviously there's no getting around that the network has been in decline in terms of metrics. Obviously, the tech is as great as ever, but there's a lot of things that have to be considered when you are in this industry. And I think that the consensus was just that it's time to do some restructuring. One thing I do know with him coming in is he has big plans in terms of a lot of plans for the actual like internal infrastructure of Sonic. He has also just from the angle of being in tech in general, he just has a pretty long list of credentials. Yeah, Yankee says Sonic's biggest bull is now our CEO. Yeah, that's hard to beat. You know what I mean? He knows this network inside and out. Like I said, with his involvement with the Sonic Strategy, he definitely wants to see the network succeed. And he actually came on GM Sonic. This was like a few months ago. He came on GM Sonic in just a capacity of talking about Sonic Strategy. And yeah, he wasn't playing around even then. We were looking at the S chart, and me and Corval were doing our thing. We're goofing off a little bit. And he said, Drac, you're too bearish, man. So he is on it. Like I said, large and like huge vested interest in seeing this network succeed. Yankee says Kong led the team to build an amazing product. Mitch can now turn that product into an amazing business. Yeah, I think that's the hope. It is kind of like, that's a really good point. I think he's just coming from kind of a different viewpoint. I think that we had for a long time very solid like fundamentals obviously the focus was on the tech, which, I mean, of course you have to have the product developed first. So now it's kind of like the next phase of that attack, right? Now it's about how do we turn Sonic into a powerhouse? And Corval's been doing really great stuff at Summit in terms of he's not only hosting the show basically, but he's also just been constantly pumping out threads and videos and all kinds of stuff. And he had like a really good little just kind of like rundown on some of Mitch's credentials. So I think this is like good information for people to have. I think that a lot of people are familiar with Mitchell and what he's done and everything, but there are a lot of people that are like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on? And I thought this was a really good thread. He's just kind of breaking down some information about things he's been involved in. He says he's been in crypto for 12 years, Bitcoin OG, opened a brokerage in 2013 in Vancouver. He was involved with launching the first Bitcoin ATM, involved with 25% of the volume on Bitstamp, joined Netcoin, tore out the guts, took company. Now, this is a big one right here, and this one really stood out to me, and it should to you too. Basically saying he joined Netcoin, tore out the guts, but he took the company from $40,000 of revenue a month to $1 million a month. And you got to let that sink in, that essentially you're seeing like a history here of he's come into like existing situations and he's able to get all the information, make a plan, execute, and turn that into a profitable business. So, I mean, I think this one right here, obviously, probably the most important. He's already kind of been on the record saying that there has been a lot of things on the timeline lately between certain people involved with labs about people don't love hearing that a team is not concerned with token price. I mean, there's just no way around it, right? Fundamentals are important, but people don't like to hear that. And I understand that. I'm included in that. You don't want to hear the people whose product you're backing say, like, we don't care about the price of that product, right? And I think Mitch was very fast to say, like, sure, you can't base every decision on every hour or day of the token price, but the quarters, the years, I mean, all that stuff, I mean, it matters, right? I mean, it's important. It is like he's saying here, he says it's like building a public company. The token is similar to a stock, which, I mean, that's just what it is, right? I mean, yes, crypto has not been as regulated as the stock market. I mean, that's part of why we love it, right? But like I don't know how there would ever be a disconnect with when you're buying a token of a project, right? That is the equivalent of the stock. I mean, that is you saying, hey, I believe in this project or I believe in this product. Same way with a stock. You're buying it saying, I like this product. I believe in it. And I'm investing in this because eventually it is going to be worth more than what I paid for. So he was very quick to say that, like, these things do matter. Yeah, Yankee says, he said the hourly doesn't matter, but the monthly and quarterly do. Exactly. I mean, because I guess also just looking at it from that stock perspective of you have your monthly, quarterly, all that stuff, all those reports, and that is where like your performance is viewed as positive or negative. So yeah, I mean, I truly think, I think people liked to hear that. Like I said, I mean, there's no getting around that. People just, yeah, you don't want to hear that people say the price doesn't matter. I mean, you just can't. I mean, so I have had one call with him last week leading up to all this, and what I can say is he's collecting all the information, similar to what I said with this company that he pumped up to like making millions from 5 digits a month. He's very detail oriented. He's collecting all the info. He's got a lot to think about, but very like proactive guy. And I think that's something else that we needed to kind of get away from was sometimes when you have this smaller team, there's a lot of like reactionary moves, right? And I mean, sometimes that's just credited to everybody's got so many things going on and you're implementing your plans and you have to be able to pivot and adapt. And so I feel like with labs, there was a lot of reactionary movement. And what I've already seen from Mitch is that he's very proactive. He wants a plan. He wants a mission. We're going to drive towards that. And I think, like I said, I know that he's already a very high priority is like formatting the infrastructure of labs itself, getting some more people on the team. Like it says here, current team works extremely hard, possibly too hard, and that is not sustainable. So yeah, I mean, I think that you have to like have that infrastructure in place in that organization. And I'm very excited to hear that. Yankee says Sonic Wave coming soonic. Yes, still working on that. Like I mentioned before, everything's been a little chaotic as this was all coming together before Singapore, and everybody's in Singapore, and Mitch is currently collecting information on everything. So that is still coming soon, and that's actually a good segue into something else that was huge that was announced at Summit. So we have some programs we've been working on to hopefully bring some TVL back to the chain, try to work on these metrics, try to deepen majors liquidity. But huge announcement was CMCC Global. They are launching what is called the Resonance Fund. It is $25 million dedicated solely to the Sonic ecosystem. So that's pretty exciting stuff. I mean, just right out the rip, making moves, positive things, right? I think I would say from my interactions, just from knowing a lot of people on the network. Of course, I'm in a lot of chats. I'm in Discord, Telegram. I think that's been obviously what's been happening with performance and price is surely number one for most people. But number two, I think that I would see is just we got to, like I said about Wave, it's like we got to start working on these metrics. We got to start working on volume and liquidity. We got to start working on majors liquidity. And I think that having this is a pretty large fund considering most of the projects on Sonic's market caps. Yeah, Yankee, you read my mind. We just basically said the same thing, which was size of the current market caps. This could be a huge boost for the eco. And yeah, I mean, it's excellent news. I mean, I don't know. I feel like on the timeline and everything else, I think the overall consensus is that people are pleased with this move. And obviously, Resonance Fund also has people excited. Jay says, send that shit, boost that shit. Looks good. Send that, moon that. I agree. Shaka saying, how will it be distributed? What criteria do you think? I don't think there's any information about this yet, as it was just announced. So I won't speculate too much on how that is going to work. But yeah, I mean, no matter how you dice it, I don't see how a $25 million fund for the Sonic Eco, like I said, based on most of the market caps, even the bigger projects, I think this will be a good thing. So Elab says, put all 25 mil in goggles. That'll bring everyone to Sonic. Yeah, I like that idea. I think that's a good idea. DeFi Maximalist, aka Billy, says, put it all into my bags and we Gucci. I agree. And as being being somewhat of an insider, I think my list of bags should be at the top of those requests. So good idea. Good idea. Let's just pump the bags. Control asking about Spawn. Yeah, Spawn should be imminent. So looking forward to playing with that some more. I think I said on the show, well, we had Seg on, I guess less than 2 weeks ago, and I got to play with some of like the early builds and stuff. And I can say like it really is pretty impressive. And that's coming from somebody that I have subscriptions to probably like every vibe coding tool, every AI coding tool. I mean, maybe not all of them, but probably at least 10. I mean, when you put it all together. And I can say it's very well done. It's trained for crypto operations and Sonic specifically. I was kind of just throwing very like broad general things at it, like, hey, make me a reserve currency, like, and it was like, oh, like listing out the mechanics of what a reserve currency would have, like it was right on it. Made a front end, no problem. So yeah, I mean, I feel like we got some bullish things in the pipeline. We needed some good news. Like I said before on the show, I think the latest market turn was like, I think it was kind of due, because traditionally with rate cuts, you actually see the market pull back. It has to pull back and then start its grind up as people start getting access to cheaper money and all that. And we've just had the first rate cut of many. I still think there's money that is yet to enter the market. So I think we are gearing up we need a name for October. Like Yo says, tell me, is October a bullish month for S? I think it has to be the most bullish month for S in a while. I mean, I guess people have Uptober, but Funeral says upriver. Yeah. Yeah, people say Uptober, but I don't know. We might need something new. So let me know if you got something new there. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Uptobers. Yeah, this is the second person that says they should just put all 25 mil in the goggles. So yeah, I mean CMCC Global. If you're here, if you're watching this right now, you're getting some good ideas here. Funeral says Uppies-tober. I think that's pretty good, to be honest, right? Uppies-tober. Uppies. I don't know. Yeah, Uppies-tober. I think it works. S-tober. Pretty good. Stober, a little Stober. AJ says Shadow-tober. I mean, that kind of works. It's spooky season. Shadow-tober. I think that works. That works pretty good. But yeah. Derptober, Laws says. It can be Derptober, but to be honest, it's derp season every day, every month of the year. So I guess we can't be too greedy. Jay says it used to be spooky season for Phantom. I know, I really missed that. And I was actually, it's funny you say that about the spooky season. I was thinking about this like yesterday. Remember on Phantom how it was like everything was pumping in DeFi and it was spooky season and all that stuff. And it was like everybody was having so much fun and everything was going so great. And then you had like people that were like, I don't move money to Phantom because it's like not professional. Like there's not enough like guys in suits and ties. It's you can't take it seriously despite everything was going crazy. And I think that was interesting to see like people kind of want to get away from that identity. But I think we've seen over and over in crypto that like, I just don't know if it's better or worse to have some kind of chain identity. I mean, I don't know. I loved it on Phantom like that, the spooky season and everything else. And everybody's protocols had spooky names, whatever. Control says September is what we've had so far. Oh man. Yeah, I think September got kind of put on hold. I think it's now up Eastober is what we're looking forward to now. Oh man. Theodore says, isn't our identity a disabled penguin? Yes. It is, but he loves to gamble and he loves DeFi. Yeah, no, this is a really good one too. Sorry, we're just going to go down memory lane here for a minute because it's too easy. But Not a Bear saying the best part of the professional complaints was when we all changed our PFPs to stock photos of business people. That's very true. Everybody like changed their PFPs, and there were NFT collections that people like put suits on them and stuff. It was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Billy says here, tell them we are super corporate now. Yeah, I do remember it was Miles that I think had the really big post about how like it's the spooky thing. I don't want to deal with it or whatever. So kind of funny, but yeah, I mean, Sonic has definitely been geared very much towards with the tech stack and everything else. So it makes sense to kind of go after a little more like corporate, institutional kind of stuff. Yankee says, who wore the goggle suit at Sonic Summit? Rumor was it was Andre. I heard that rumor too. It very well could have been him. Let me see here. I'm going to try to find a photo of that quickly in case no one saw the goggles suit, because there was this image going around of like the kind of like the paper mache outline of like the suit, and it wasn't like anywhere near finished, so people were like kind of like goofing on it, but I thought it came out pretty good. That looks pretty good. And there's some guy in there, and hopefully he's okay, considering how hot and humid it is in Singapore. Several people here saying it was Sarge in the suit. I can confirm it was not Sarge, but yeah, pretty funny to be honest. Yeah, I thought the suit came out good. Let's see here. I was gonna find something else real fast. There were these goggles plushies that were out there. There was 200 of them out there. Hopefully if you were there, you got one. But yeah, I mean, we'll have a lot more stuff to break down from Summit, because really just trying to cover the biggest couple things that happened. But when Corval comes back, obviously we have all kinds of panels, all kinds of announcements to talk about. Speaking of announcements, sorry, I'm laughing at these comments. Speaking of announcements, while we're on big things relevant, Flying Tulip kind of back posting on the timeline again, and big announcement about their $200 million seed round with a lot of the investors there. Real quick before I move on to this, Dear Spence says, where was all the media that was supposed to come out of Summit? There's a lot of media floating around. I would recommend going to Corval's X, the Labs X. There's a lot of media, and there's going to be a lot more media to come. What's funny is, honestly, it's kind of a lose-lose, because it takes a lot of resources to like try to like live stream the entire event, and it doesn't have like really good ROI. Like, people don't want to sit there and just watch the show live. So typically what happens, that what works better is probably by the end of this week, I would imagine, definitely early next week, you'll start seeing a lot of like short videos, edited content, the juicy stuff edited down. So don't worry, that's coming soon. And I'm sure like protocols and other things will have their own media, but that's kind of like the reality of it. You know what I mean? Like, people like tell you they want it to be live streamed, and it takes a lot of resources. And then like you look at the stats, and it's like, it's a very few amount of people actually like watch these things live. It's better to just get the condensed content. I have spoken about this before with some people, where I think something that could be interesting would be like an event all on its own, kind of like a virtual summit, where, I don't know, we could run it through StreamYard like this, where it's something like you get a lot of people coming on the stream, presenting their whatever they want to present. But just a lot tighter, a lot shorter, and it's something that everyone can watch online, right? So like a virtual summit. And I think that would be cool to maybe pop one of those in somewhere in between all these actual events. Yeah, Yankee says Corville has the best media coverage right now. Yeah, like I said at the top of the show, I don't know how he's managed to. I've talked to him a couple times briefly, and it's like he's hosting it and he's cranking out all this content. So the man is grinding out there. So definitely go to his X right now is probably like one of the best places you could go. Funeral says we should do Sonic Summit in Fortnite. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We need to see if we can get Fortnite involved and do one of those like events like they did during COVID, where there's just like some room and everyone's avatars are like hopping around and dancing and stuff. I think that would help push our super serious image that Sonic has. But yeah, big flying Tulip announcement about the $200 million seed round. What would come next would be public, right? So the moment everybody is waiting for is, I imagine, not too far in the distance, right? The private round is over. In the early announcements about Flying Tulip, they had said that once we get through this private round, there will be a public round. So pretty big news. And there's been, ever since that, there's been like a lot of content online on like the timeline, I mean, about Flying Tulip. And there was this good article here by one of the firms that invested. So Lemniscap or Lemniscap, or I don't know how to say it, but I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long, but there were a couple things I wanted to touch on, like in terms of like, we're still just kind of limited right now on like total info regarding Flying Tulip. And I think there was like some good info here. Some of this is like has been touched on a little bit, but they're breaking down the fundraising model. And the idea is to raise a large reserve of capital through a token sale. That capital goes directly into low risk DeFi strategies, and the resulting yield funds the operations until the product suite generates its own revenues. When you invest in Flying Tulip token, it's backed by a perpetual put option, which means that at any time you can get your original investment back, right? It never expires. I thought we've heard this part, right? About the option and you could get your investment back. But what I thought was interesting, and let's see if it's right here. Maybe it's down further. But basically what I thought was interesting was you can claim your option to get your investment back. But let's say that the token price is higher and you want to just actually sell it. When you sell the token, the original backing moves into the treasury to continue earning yield, but also will contribute to buybacks. And this is something that hasn't really been discussed a lot yet, is that basically the majority of the expenses are going to be split between operating expenses, but everything else is going to go to buybacks, which, as we've seen, for something that has like high volume and fees and yield, like something like Hyperliquid, buybacks can be substantial to the token value. I think it in the past it's been debated if like buyback is truly like a good strategy or not, and I think that's really the lesson from it is if your protocol is just making, I don't know, typical exchange kind of fees and you're not necessarily like a top dex or whatever, then yeah, buyback is kind of like, as they would say, pissing in the wind probably. But as we've seen now, this model does work really well if there is the capital to make a difference, right? So I think that that's something that hasn't necessarily been touched on a lot, is that this article is saying straight up half and half. So that's, I don't know if that's the official breakdown. It says wind flying piss fork. Yeah. I hope people clip me talking about pissing in the wind. But yeah, I mean, I think we've seen that this model does work when there is the revenue to like make a significant dent. And essentially that's what's happening, is that if this article is correct, then at least 50% of anything generated, yield, revenue, etc., is going to go into constant buybacks. And I think that's what really makes the difference when you're looking at something like hype, is that this happens constant. This is like constant buy pressure. It's not like, oh, once a quarter we divvy stuff up or whatever. It's just, it's daily, it's constant. Here was the thing I was talking about earlier that I hadn't seen here yet, was just that you can claim your option, but if you sell your token, the option is invalidated. Then the original capital moves to the foundation where it can be used to buy back and burn tokens. This means that selling doesn't just remove an investor's protection, it actively strengthens the token's deflationary mechanics. And I think that's huge when you think about it, because this is better value than like a token tax or something, right? Because of the way this model works, it's basically like you can claim your option to get what you put in. If the token price is higher, which good chance it is if there's going to be constant buy pressure, let's say you just sell your token, those original funds you put in are then moved to the foundation. And I think that's a huge difference, because there's been discussions I've had where it's like, okay, like we've seen option tokens and some of those have been successful, a lot have not. But I think that's the part that makes this different than a typical option token. This idea that, let's say you have 1,000S, and typically you would sell, and there's already, when you bought, you like on a typical like model, like you've bought the token, so you've already put your value into the token, then you sell and it takes the value out. So when you're selling above what you paid for the token, you're obviously getting your value for, hey, the price is up, that's good. But the protocol actually benefits a lot from sales, because now that original asset you put in is now going to the protocol. So that's more yield, that's more buybacks. Yeah, I mean, I've said this in some group chats and stuff, but it's like, I mean, the more I learn about Flying Tulip, I'm insanely bullish on it. I don't know how you can see this and not be super bullish on the project. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a good article. I'll link it here in the chat if you want to look at it. Like I said, it's kind of long, so I didn't want to just like sit here and read the whole thing. But let me pop that in there for anybody that wants to see it. So yeah, Helab says you haven't really been in crypto until you give Andre your money for an experiment. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, it's been how many years since Solidly? 3 years? Roughly. Yeah, 3 years, 3.5 years or something. He takes his time on his projects. I know there's a lot of chatter, people getting excited. I think that, like Fallout Zone saying here, excited to see Andre step into the arena. It's perp season, so perfect timing. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's obviously the era of perp wars right now. I'm glad you brought that up, because it was actually something I wanted to look at, right? There has been like some people that are kind of like, oh, like poo-pooing the project, because there is kind of like at the end of the day, a lot of the actions, a lot of the TVL, a lot of the pools are going to be on Sonic. I would still say you're looking at Sonic not being like the total execution layer, but it's going to be a lot of volume, a lot of traffic for the network. And what I wanted to touch on was it is good timing because unless you're living under a rock, you're not familiar with what's been going on with perp dexes since the birth of Hyperliquid. But right now, I mean, look at this. Aster, $67 billion in 24 hours. Now, what I looked at this morning that I thought was worth thinking about was you look at something like Aster. If you go to if you go to Coin Market Cap, Binance did 25 billion in spot volume yesterday. Binance, right? So Aster had almost 3 times the trading volume of Binance yesterday, which is insane. Now, if you want to just take Aster off the board, because obviously it's really hot right now, it's the new thing. If you want to just like take Binance and Aster off the board, Bybit, 4.5 billion, right? Hyperliquid did 7.5. Lighter did 8. So we're truly like entering an era right now where I had this discussion in the GM Sonic Telegram, which if you're not in there, you should join. It's gotten pretty interesting lately. That this isn't even really like Spence here says is the narrative, and it is the narrative right now, but it's not going anywhere because this is truly what large players and institutions and everything else have been waiting for. Yes, crypto investments are nice, but what people want is slightly less regulated futures with very little to no KYC. If you're looking at something like Aster, it has dark pools. So it's not even like a situation like Hyperliquid that claims that every single thing is on chain for perps. I mean, it's that the tech is finally here. People have been trying. This has been basically the number one goal in DeFi since its inception would be you get futures, then you get institutions and blah, blah, blah. Now, that has its own can of worms that we could go on and on about in terms of is that good or bad, right? But there's just no way around it that things have changed and it's never going back from here. Because now that there are platforms where people feel as comfortable on a decentralized platform as they do trading futures on Binance, we're not going back. It's never going back. It's the genie's out the bottle. So Hyperliquid, just the whole club thing, like I said, where people have more of like an order book, it's never going back. And this is great for Flying Tulip because this has been one of the main things they've been working on for Flying Tulip. I don't know if you've seen a couple of the posts, but they're talking about how it's going to have this really nice, sleek UI. We haven't gotten to see the UI yet, but yeah, I mean, the timing could not be better, really. I mean, AJ says trading volume from Aster because the airdrop farmers. Yeah, I mean, and you're going to see that over and over and over and over again. So that's just the way the game is going to be played. So yeah, I mean, I don't think necessarily Aster stays on top forever. It's got some big names behind it, but you're already seeing other perp dexes that are about to launch or are launching, and they all have big backers and everything else. And it's like I said, it's because this is what people have been waiting for that are not involved necessarily very much in crypto. I mean, something to look at is someone like SBF and Alameda. I think these guys made tons of money being able to basically have access to, like, not necessarily just having access to things like perps, but kind of like being willing to take the risk at the time and having like the know-how on how to like navigate through the space at the time. So that was a huge barrier, right? Was how sketchy things are, how the fees were bad on a lot of the early systems, on how you're sending a TX and stuff isn't executing like instantly. You're removing like all those barriers. So yeah, I mean, the timing could not be better for Flying Tulip. So returning to what we talked about earlier, yes, I do think October and this final quarter of the year coming up, I think it's going to be bullish, right? So let's see. Yeah, Yankee says it's so much more than a perp dex. It's got a native stablecoin, money market, spot trading, insurance. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, is I don't even think we've really scratched the surface on all of the information on all of the things that Flying Tulip is going to do. It's going to be a lot. Jay says, I saw at least 10 to 20 incoming ones. It's perp slop season. Yeah, I mean, there's even stuff like, shout out to Orderly. I really like their system, but they have created a thing where you can basically launch your own perp decks like in a few minutes. And I think it's like $1,000 or maybe more, but it's kind of like launching your own front end, because then it just pulls from all their liquidity and their pairings and all that stuff. So, I mean, anyone could literally launch a perp dex right now, like no code basically. So yeah, I mean, you're going to see a lot of good stuff. You're going to see a lot of bad stuff. Like AJ mentioned above about the farming. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of farming. So there's going to be a lot of like dexes of the week and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, end of the day, timing couldn't be better for Flying Tulip. It's going to benefit Sonic a ton. Sonic, we're now shifting gears with new, fresh leadership, new goals, new team members, all kinds of stuff. So times have been tough. Times have been a little bleak, a little dark, but I mean, I think that if you're still here, it's about as much bullish news as you could have right now. So hang in there. And thank you everybody for watching. I'm getting close on time here. Ended up ranting a lot longer than I expected, but thanks for everybody for watching and dropping comments. That gives me something to talk about when I don't have Corval here. So yeah, we will be back on Friday. I believe Corval will be back Friday, but if not, you'll just have me again. And yeah, we will continue to update on things from Summit. Like I said, keep an eye out if you want to see some of the content. There will be a lot of stuff by the end of the week, short form, edited stuff. So yeah, thanks again for hanging with me, and we will see you guys later this week. AJ says, love you, pump our bags. I'm going to get into order books right now. So open along. We'll catch you later.
GM Sonic is Corval, Drac, and Mew Mew.